Hi, Todd Martin here. In this video, I'm going to go into some more detail on one of the core techniques from the walking code and the running code that I haven't explored a lot, and that is the technique of pulse. This is what you're going to be using if you are jumping, skipping, hopping, anything where you're getting the body all the way off the ground. We haven't explored this core technique in the past because we haven't discussed running so much as we have discussed walking and other types of activities where we stay with one foot on the ground all the time. In order to get the body all the way off the ground, we need a different type of energy than what we use in walking. This is the core energy that I refer to in the walking code as pulse, and in Tai Chi theory is referred to as ward off, which is the most aggressive or offensive energy of the core or movement in Tai Chi. And in a demonstration, we're going to use running up the stairs to demonstrate how we're going to use this energy. If I'm walking up the stairs, you can see that as I place one foot on a step, I shift forward and then I push the body up. I can push as hard as I want and it's not going to get me to jump. I shift forward and I push. Let's go back here. I can push really hard, and as hard as I push, I will not leave the ground. Let me back up to a step a little bit lower and do the same thing. I shift forward, I push up. When I push up, I'm extending my left hip. I'm tucking my lower abs on the left, and I am turning my upper torso forward on the left. That is the energy of push. I've talked about that in the stair climbing video, and we use that to push the body up, and then we place the foot on the next step. I shift forward, then I push the body up. No matter how hard I push, my body is not going to leave the step. I shift forward, I push up. I step, shift, push up. I can push as hard as I want. So what do we need to do to get this action, where I'm actually leaving the ground and hopping up to the next step? That is something that is almost invisible to the eye because it occurs in the core. And this is a conversion of the push core technique to the pulse core technique. I also described this a little bit in my sprinting technique video because the push to pulse combination is what we use in all forms of running to get us off the ground. In this static video going upstairs, I'm going to be able to demonstrate that a little bit clearer. When I use push, like I said, I am extending my left hip, tucking my waist on the left, that's the lower abdominal action, and turning the chest or the upper abdominal action forward on the left. All of this action is on the left. That's the push. In order to turn push into pulse, what I need to do is turn my upper part of the core towards this left side. So I turn my upper part of the core towards the left, and that is going to convert push to pulse. It is, of course, invisible because it's a just slight movement of the core, but what that slight movement of the core does is provides expansive energy throughout the core that also leads to extension of my knee and plantar flexion of my ankle. So when I'm moving up the stairs, if I want to hop, I go push, pulse, push, pulse. And then after the pulse, then I have to land, and that's a different or separate core technique. Let me show you a side view of push. From this position, the extension of the hip joint here using my glutes, I'm tucking in the waist on the left, and I'm turning forward on the left. You can see me do this very rapidly, and my foot doesn't leave the ground. But at the top of the movement, when I turn my upper torso towards this left side, it's going to further extend my knee and plantar flex the ankle, and then you're going to get that action. So this is what I'm going to do when I'm going up the stairs if I want to run up the stairs. Push to pulse, I land, and I can push to pulse. I can push as hard as I want without the core. Once I add the core, that is able to jump me up to the next step. And what you'll see when I jump up to the next step is I'm going to land, and my energy is going to be forward on my left side if I'm jumping off the right leg. My energy is forward on the right until I jump, and then you'll notice the energy forward on the left. Now let's practice the push to pulse exercise to jump up to a step. And I want you to use your arms so you can see what's happening with the push. When you're going to push up with your left leg, reach forward with your left arm and push as hard as you can, and you'll see that you do not leave the ground. Now what I want you to do at the top of the push, I want you to thrust your right arm forward, which is going to move forward with the right part of the core, and hop to the next step. And you'll see as you land that now your core is forward on the right side. And then of course I have to change my hip energy from extension, which jumped up, to flexion in order to land. And I also change my root or my waist rotation in order to land on the right leg. So I'm going from push to pulse. And then I have to flex the hip in order to land and change the root to the right to land. That's push, 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 pulse. The core energy of the upper waist rotation is what triggers the jump. The action of pulse is simply a matter of physics. I increase my energy by applying all three elements of my core. When I'm pushing, I have two elements of the core pushing against the ground. I have my hip energy pushing back against the ground, and I have my waist rotation turning back against the ground. And my upper part of the core is turning away from the ground, which actually takes away energy from the whole movement. So I have two of the three core elements pushing against the ground when I push. When I do pulse, what I am doing is adding the third element of the upper torso rotation, now pushing back against the ground also. I'm pushing my hip against the ground, I'm rotating my waist against the ground, and I'm rotating my chest against the ground. All three of those actions put together create the most aggressive or energetic movement that we can do with the core. When I'm standing straight forward and I hop, it's very difficult to see that rotation because you're looking at the rotation from here to here. If I use my hands, it's a little bit easier to see. It's impossible to see if you're just hopping. And this is why it's very difficult for people to understand exactly what they're doing. We learn how to jump or hop by doing it. We don't learn by understanding it. And the key to the walking code and the running code is to try to understand what we're doing, because then we're going to be able to manipulate our movements much more clearly. The other thing I want to explain is the idea of hopping forward versus hopping straight up in the air. Because I can hop up in the air like this and not jump up onto the step, or I can hop forward and I continue to hop forward. I can hop up and forward. I can hop or step backwards, but I can hop forwards or I can hop straight up. Hop forward, hop straight up. The difference between the forward hop and the straight up hop is going to be the original position. When I want to hop forward, I'm beginning with my weight shifted forward onto the front of my foot, or the ball of the foot. That's where I'm going to initiate the push and pulse, and it's going to bring me forward. If I shift my weight back to the heel and initiate the push and pulse, then I'm going to get a hop straight up and down. I shift forward before the push and pulse, and then I'm going to be moving forward and up as I hop. And so that's how we're going to run upstairs, using the push, pulse, push, pulse, push, pulse, starting with your weight forward on the ball before you hop. If you want to hop in place, keep your weight back on the heel. As soon as you want to hop up to the next step, shift the weight forward, then push, pulse. Let me show from the side view. If my weight's on my heel and I push up and pulse, I'm going to hop up in the air, starting from the weight on the heel. If I shift the weight forward to the ball, and that's using the upper part of the core already, that's going to shift me forward to the ball by turning my upper core forward on the left, shifts my weight forward to the ball of the left foot. Now I'm going to push and pulse, and the hop is forward. When I hop straight up in the air, my weight is back on the heel because I'm forward on the opposite side. I'm forward on the right, which means I'm relatively back on the left, and then I push and pulse straight up in the air. If I shift forward on the right first before pushing and pulsing, now I'm going to hop forward. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.